I really admire people who have the gift of being able to interview other people. I think one of the most well-known and maybe one of the greatest interviewers was Barbara Walters. I think most of you would remember her. She had an uncanny ability to ask questions in such a way that she would get information that they had no intention of divulging. Very subtle questions. I'm not sure if she was the one who interviewed Bill Clinton after his ordeal. And I think she asked him, well, Mr. President or Mr. Clinton, how do you justify your mistakes? Well, he paused for a bit, maybe attempting or thinking, how can he justify his mistakes? And finally, he said, well, you know, only a fool would try to justify his mistakes. It sounds like one of the Proverbs. But she interviewed many other people, and there were other really good interviewers. I don't know if you remember some of them. Matter of fact, when I mentioned these, Bill Eckert said, you're really dating yourself by naming some of these people. Steve Allen, Jack Parr, Johnny Carson, David Frost. Matter of fact, David Frost, I thought also was an excellent interviewer. He interviewed Richard Nixon, I believe, and was able to get him to come clean, you know, to really engage and to reveal himself. I think sometimes they forgot that they were being interviewed. It was almost like talking to a good friend, because a good interview really gains your trust and your confidence, and so you're able to say things. Of course, there are some other interviewers that are very popular, like Oprah Winfrey, or there are a number of others. And the reason that I'm talking about this is that I think the best interviewer is Jesus. We just listened to that story of the Samaritan woman. And Jesus gained her confidence in such a way that she was able to reveal herself and to feel safe doing that. And you know, that's really what the sacrament of reconciliation is. Being able to reveal ourselves. You know, God doesn't need to hear our confession. You know, actually, God isn't very interested in hearing our confession because He knows everything already. But we need to confess. We need to own. Because, you know, when we confess our sins, we are simultaneously confessing the mercy of God. We are confessing how merciful and forgiving is our God. You know, and this Samaritan woman was so consoled and comforted by Jesus' love and kindness that she went out on the street and started almost bragging about her sins. She said, "Come and see this man who told me everything I've ever done. And he accepts me. He loves me." You know, Jesus was so gentle with her. I mean, even in saying, you know, go get your husband. Well, he knew the story. You know, and he didn't say right away, well, you know, I can't really talk to you until you get these annulments. So you better go to church and, you know, work these things through. Then come and talk to me. No. He accepted her. Just as Jesus accepts each one of us. Jesus knows us intimately and loves us. That's the good news. Jesus knows everything about us. And he loves us. And that's what St. Paul is talking about in that letter to the Romans. He's saying that, with difficulty, would we die for somebody who's just? And we might even have the courage to die for somebody who is good. But while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That's how much he loves us. It's easy to forgive somebody who deserves it or who needs it, but to forgive somebody who in a way doesn't even know that they've sinned against us, that's real love. Jesus is the living water that we thirst for. And that's why we come to the Lord's table to drink and to partake of this bread, this living water. In just a few minutes, we'll be inviting the elect and their sponsors to come forward. And we'll be praying over them. And like I said, that they are modeling what we are being called to do, to come before God as this woman came before Jesus, and to have Jesus scrutinize us. The word scrutiny probably isn't the best word in English because it has a connotation of, nitpicking, and it's kind of a negative thing. But it's a loving gaze. The scrutinies are God's loving gaze upon us that heals us. And that's what we all come here for, to be basking in the sunshine of God's love, to come basking in the sun of God.